I'll never forget the sound of that knock. It was a slow, confident rhythm, like whoever was on the other side already knew they were about to change my life. I dried my hands on a dish towel, expecting Leah to be standing there with her usual forced smile and some made-up drama about her job or another guy who ghosted her. But the moment I opened the door, I knew this wasn't one of those visits. She leaned against the doorframe like she owned the place, her hand resting lightly over her stomach. Her nails were freshly done, her lips twisted into a smug little smile. "Maya," she said, dragging out my name like it was the beginning of a punchline. "Leah," I replied, my voice flat but polite. "You want to come in?" "Oh, I won't be long," she said, stepping inside anyway like always. She walked past me like she had something important to do, like I was just an accessory in her day. I closed the door slowly. "So what's going on?" She turned around dramatically, as if she'd rehearsed this in front of a mirror. "I just wanted you to hear it from me first," she said, voice full of fake sympathy. "I'm pregnant." My eyes flicked to her hand on her belly. I didn't say a word. She tilted her head, waiting for a reaction. "It's Daniel's," she added, watching me closely. Still, I said nothing, not even a blink. Leah's smile faltered for half a second, but she recovered quickly. "I know this is hard to hear, but he told me everything. He said you were boring, that he was tired of pretending, that you too were already falling apart." She waited again, maybe for me to cry, to scream, to fall apart. Instead, I looked her straight in the eye and simply asked, "Are you done?" That caught her off guard. She cleared her throat and looked away for a beat. "Anyway, I'm sure the divorce papers will be coming soon. Daniel said he'd handle that. I just thought, you'd want to start packing." I nodded slowly. "Thanks for the heads up." Leah blinked. "Wait, that's it." "That's it." She stared at me, confused. "You're not going to beg? Yell at me? You're not even mad?" I gave her a small, polite smile. "No." She frowned. "You're weird." I walked her to the door and opened it for her. "Good luck, Leah. I hope everything works out the way you planned." She walked out, clearly frustrated that her big reveal didn't go the way she'd imagined. And as she disappeared down the hallway, she didn't see the slight curl of my lips as I closed the door behind her. Because what Leah didn't know was simple. She hadn't ruined me. She had activated me. And she had absolutely no idea what was coming next. People love to romanticize sisterhood, matching pajamas, inside jokes, borrowing each other's clothes. That was never my reality. Leah and I were sisters by blood, sure, but emotionally, spiritually, we were strangers in competition from the moment we could talk. Growing up, I was the quiet one, the well-behaved daughter who didn't cause trouble, who brought home good grades, who apologized even when I hadn't done anything wrong. My parents loved calling me mature for my age, but they never stopped to ask if I was okay. I was easy to forget because I never needed anything. Leah, on the other hand, demanded attention like it was oxygen, and she always got it. She'd throw tantrums in the middle of grocery stores and get rewarded with candy. She'd cry over a B- and be comforted with ice cream. When I quietly won a spelling bee in 4th grade, my parents barely blinked. But when Leah came home with a participation trophy for a dance recital she skipped half the rehearsals for, they threw her a pizza party. I remember sitting on the stairs watching them celebrate her mediocrity like it was magic. That was the moment I learned something cruel but important. In my family, loud won over good. But what stung the most wasn't the favoritism, it was Leah's jealousy. Whenever I made a friend, she'd swoop in, charm them, and somehow make me the third wheel. When I joined the art club in middle school, she joined a week later, then mocked me until I quit. She couldn't stand when I had something she didn't, no matter how small. Even in high school, it never stopped. I got a role in the school play. She flirted with the lead actor and made sure I got replaced. If I was happy, she needed to wreck it. That was her sport. So, I shouldn't have been surprised when she came after my marriage. Daniel and I had met in college, and for once I felt like I had something sacred, something that was mine. But even during our engagement, Leah made comments. "He's too handsome for you," she'd say with a half smile. Or, "If you don't keep him on a leash, someone else will." I laughed it off then, not knowing that someone else was standing in the same room, sharpening her claws. And now, here she was pregnant by my husband, standing in my hallway like she'd won. But Leah didn't understand something crucial. She thought this was just another game, that she'd taken another toy from the quiet sister who never fought back. She didn't realize I had grown up. She didn't know I was no longer the girl who stayed quiet when someone took what was mine. She had spent her whole life trying to take things from me. But this time, I wasn't going to let her keep it. They say hindsight is 20/20, but sometimes you don't even need to look back. The cracks were always right there, staring you in the face. You just choose to pretend they're not. When Daniel and I first got married, I believed we were that couple people envied. He was attentive, funny, ambitious. I felt safe with him. And for a while, I genuinely believed I had found someone who saw me. Me, not just the quiet girl, not Leah's sister, just Maya. But marriage has a way of showing you who someone really is. Not through grand moments, but in the quiet, daily shifts. It started with the phone. He used to leave it lying around the house. Kitchen counter, bathroom sink, no password, nothing to hide. Then one day he started locking it. "I just got a new update," he mumbled when I asked. "It auto-locks now." I didn't push it. I trusted him. But I remember the way my stomach twisted just a little. Next came the late nights. He'd never been the kind to overwork himself. In fact, we used to laugh about how quickly he logged off after 5. But suddenly he was always wrapping something up. Always just one more Zoom call. I'd wait for him at dinner. Sometimes I'd fall asleep on the couch waiting. "You're being dramatic," he'd say, brushing off my concerns with a tired smile. "You know how the promotion track is." I nodded, pretending I understood. I didn't want to be the clingy wife, the insecure one. I told myself this was normal, that I was the problem. Until the night I knew. It was a Thursday. He said he had a company dinner. I stayed home with a headache. Around 9:30 p.m., I heard his phone buzz on the bathroom counter. He'd forgotten to take it with him. I wish I could say I hesitated, that I battled with my conscience. But I didn't. I picked it up, opened the notifications, and there it was. A text from Leah. A selfie. Her lips pouted. Her shirt barely on. Caption, "Thinking of you. Wish I was under that table instead of the food." I didn't cry. Not immediately. I stared at the screen like I was reading someone else's life. That was the moment the marriage ended, even if the paperwork hadn't been filed yet. And I realized all the signs were there. The phone. The distance. The half-hearted kisses. The business trips that never added up. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't insecure. I was being cheated on by the two people I should have been able to trust the most. But instead of confronting them right then, I did something else. I put the phone down. I smiled. And I started planning. Because if they wanted to play dirty, they had no idea who they were up against. The day I stopped pretending wasn't the day I saw the text. That was just the spark. The real moment? It came later when I saw them together. It was a rainy Saturday afternoon, and Daniel said he was heading to a client meeting. I smiled, kissed his cheek, and packed him a lunch. I even added a cookie like I used to when we first got married. He didn't notice that my hands didn't shake anymore, that my smile was colder than it used to be. He left in a rush. I waited 5 minutes, grabbed my umbrella, and got into my car. I already knew where to go. I'd followed him before, twice, but this time I brought my camera. Not my phone, not screenshots. Real photos, real evidence. He pulled up to the hotel like he'd done it 100 times. No hesitation, like it was muscle memory now. Like cheating on me had become a routine chore. Pick up dry cleaning, stop by mistress's room, lie to wife. I parked a block away, walked slowly, hood up. The rain helped. Nobody looks twice at someone with a camera in a storm. I snapped pictures as he walked inside. Watched Leah open the door to him in nothing but a robe, and then wrapped herself around him like a smug little snake. Click, click, click. I wasn't angry. I didn't cry. I was past that now. I went home, downloaded the images, saved them in multiple folders, backed them up, emailed them to myself. I was done crying. Now I was working. The next day I called a lawyer. Not just any lawyer. A divorce attorney who specialized in infidelity cases. She was sharp, ruthless, and when I showed her the pictures, she said one word that made my heart beat again. Perfect. Over the next few weeks, I kept up appearances. I kissed Daniel goodnight. I texted Leah funny memes. I even invited her over for brunch and let her sit at my table, eat my food, laugh at my stories. She thought she was winning, but I was building a case. I gathered receipts, logged texts, planted a voice recorder during one of their secret calls. Leah confessed everything in a whisper. She's clueless, Danny. I almost feel bad. Daniel chuckled. She'll find out when the papers show up. She'll probably cry, but she'll get over it. I pressed stop on the recorder and smiled. They weren't just cruel. They were stupid, too. In the meantime, I met with my financial advisor, transferred funds, protected my assets, closed joint accounts, quietly. Daniel never noticed. He was too busy living his fantasy. And Leah? She was too busy gloating. She thought I was still blind. She thought I was still weak. But I wasn't pretending anymore. They thought they were pulling the strings, but every smile I gave them, every text I replied to, was another thread I wrapped around them, tighter and tighter, because I wasn't going to yell. I wasn't going to beg. I was going to end this my way. And when I did, neither of them would see it coming. Leah thought she had me cornered. Every time she visited, she walked into my house like she already owned it, like I was just a bitter ex waiting to be replaced. The worst part? She truly believed I was too fragile, too naive, too good to fight back. I let her believe it. Oh, Maya, she'd sigh dramatically. I know this must be hard for you, but Daniel and we didn't plan it. It just happened. Love is unpredictable, right? I clutched my tea and nodded slowly, eyes downcast. Right. She looked so satisfied when I said that, like she was doing me a favor by letting me watch her gloat in my own kitchen. I played dumb. That was my role now. I pretended I didn't notice Daniel's overnight bags going missing, that I didn't see Leah's lip gloss in his car or her perfume lingering on his shirts. I even asked her, ever so sweetly, if she wanted to borrow my dress for her upcoming work event. Oh my God, Maya, you're handling this so maturely, she'd said, caught off guard. And I smiled. I just want everyone to be happy. Behind the smile, every move was calculated. I knew her ego was her weakness. So I fed it. You're so much prettier than I am, I whispered one day as we pretended to bond over wine. No wonder he chose you. Leah beamed like she'd just won a trophy. She never questioned why I wasn't crying, why I wasn't begging Daniel to stay, why I wasn't lashing out. Because in her mind, she'd already won. And that's what made her so easy to manipulate. While she obsessed over Daniel, I was meeting with my attorney, finalizing the prenup audit. Turns out, cheating voids his right to spousal support. Turns out, everything I'd worked for? Legally protected. I quietly moved money, protected assets, rewrote my will. I even added a clause. Should anything happen to me, Leah gets nothing. That made me sleep a little better. And Daniel, I let him feel like the king of a castle he didn't know was already crumbling. Honey, do you want me to wash your work shirts? I asked sweetly one evening. He looked surprised. Sure. I did. Then I dropped one off at my lawyer's office. The dry cleaning tag held DNA. Just one more piece of evidence. This wasn't just revenge. This was chess. And they were playing checkers. I was no longer the quiet, overlooked sister, or the doting wife. I was the woman who smiled while her enemies made themselves comfortable in the trap she built. And they were getting cozy. Little did they know I wasn't losing them. I was setting them up for a loss they'd never recover from. Leah strutted up my driveway like a queen claiming her throne. She was wearing a tight red dress, one I'd once worn to my anniversary dinner. She didn't knock this time. She rang the bell and waited with a grin like she was here to finish the job. The last time she came, she brought betrayal. This time, she expected to walk away with my life. But I had something else waiting for her. I opened the door with the same calm expression she'd mistaken for weakness. Behind me, sitting quietly at the kitchen table, was a woman in a navy suit. Leah didn't notice her right away. Finally, Leah said, brushing past me. So, are the papers signed? Or should I wait until he moves all the way in? Before I could reply, the woman in the navy suit stood up. Leah Thomas? She asked firmly. Leah turned, confused. Yes. You've been served, the woman said, placing a thick envelope in her hands. What is this? Leah blinked rapidly, caught off guard for the first time. That's a lawsuit for emotional distress, defamation, and property interference, the woman said. Filed on behalf of Ms. Maya Lane. Effective immediately. You're not to come within 200 feet of her residence, workplace, or social events. You've also been named in a civil restraining order. Leah's mouth dropped open, but she wasn't done being surprised. Oh, and just to be clear, I added, there won't be any divorce papers. Leah blinked. What do you mean? You're his wife. I almost felt sorry for her. Actually, I said, Daniel and I were never legally married. It was a symbolic ceremony. We never filed the license. Her face twisted. You're lying. You can check the county records. I already sent you a copy of the certificate, or lack of one. Daniel and I were together, sure. But marriage? No. And you know what that means, Leah? All that gloating? All those lies? You stole a man who was never mine to begin with. She staggered backward. That's not possible. Oh, it is, I said. And now you've been hit with a lawsuit that will keep you in court for months. Legal fees, damage to your reputation. Not to mention Daniel's company, which is partially owned by me, yes, legally. Which means, by cheating with an executive partner's fiancé, he just broke a pretty serious company clause. Leah looked like she was going to be sick. I tilted my head and smiled. You played your cards too early. I watched. I waited. And now I'm cashing in. She tried to speak, but I closed the door on her silence. Outside, I could hear her heels clicking on the pavement as she stumbled back to her car, the weight of the papers in her hands. Leah came expecting to win. Instead, she walked away with a lawsuit of a restraining order, and the realization that she'd never been ahead. She was just a pawn in a game she never understood. And I was done playing nice. They thought I'd break, that I'd beg, that I'd crumble under the weight of betrayal. But they forgot. I wasn't the same girl they used to play with. I wasn't the naive, approval-hungry Maya anymore. I had watched them build a fantasy world of lies. And now it was my turn to light the match. I invited them both. A neutral location. A quiet, glass-walled conference room at my attorney's office. Daniel arrived first, smug and freshly shaved like this with some civil breakup. Leah walked in next, with her "I already won" attitude painted across her face. But it faded the moment she saw the folders laid out on the table. Legal folders, evidence, screenshots, witness reports, audio clips. You called this meeting for what? Daniel asked. To show you exactly what it looks like when the truth shows up, I said, steady, my hands folded on the table. And how easily a castle made of lies can burn to ash. I slid a copy of my compiled file across the table. Let's start with you, Daniel. His hands trembled as he flipped through the pages. Emails between him and Leah. Hotel records. A copy of the fidelity clause in his employment contract. Financial records showing transfers from our shared account to Leah's luxury purchases. You weren't just unfaithful, I said, voice low but sharp. You were sloppy and dumb. And now your board of directors knows. You'll be receiving a formal termination letter within the week. Effective immediately. He swallowed hard. You wouldn't. I already did. Then I turned to Leah. You wanted to be me so badly, Leah. But the truth is, you never had your own identity. You've always just latched on to whatever I had. My friends, my clothes, my confidence, and now my husband. She opened her mouth to speak, but I cut her off. I hope the taste of this betrayal was worth it, because while you were busy stealing scraps, I was building everything you thought you destroyed. I pulled out one final envelope. This is proof of ownership of Daniel's business stake, transferred to me before you even came knocking that day. I advised him to protect it from creditors. You'll find my name on every asset you two thought you could enjoy together. You manipulated us, she said bitterly. No, I said. I watched. And I planned. That's not manipulation. That's self-preservation. Daniel looked pale. Leah looked furious, but I felt peace. I stood up and looked at them one last time. You two deserve each other. Enjoy the consequences. And with that, I walked out. No yelling, no tears, just footsteps echoing on the tile floor as I left them sitting in their own wreckage. Outside, the air felt different, lighter. The mask I'd worn for so long, of the doting partner, the forgiving sister, the blind fool, it burned the second I walked out that door. I didn't need revenge, that destroyed me too. I needed freedom, and now I had it. People always assume betrayal leaves you broken, that when someone slices through your trust like a knife through warm butter, you collapse. But let me tell you something, they're wrong. Betrayal didn't break me. It woke me up. In the weeks after that final confrontation, I felt empty. Not sad, not angry, just quiet. Like I'd finally turned off a noise I didn't even realize had been screaming in the background for years. The chaos, the pretending, the trying to be enough for people who never really saw me, it all stopped. And when the noise stopped, I could finally hear myself again. I started slow, just breathing, just being. I walked without checking my phone. Ate meals without the ache in my stomach from wondering if Daniel was really working late. I sat in silence and learned to love it. No more second-guessing. No more emotional gymnastics trying to win love that should have been freely given. Then I got to work. I'd always had ideas, business plans scribbled in notebooks, branding concepts filed away in my brain. I used to share them with Daniel, and he'd smile politely, then pivot the conversation to himself. But now, there was no one to dismiss me. I took a risk and launched a small consulting firm. Just me, a laptop, and a handful of clients willing to take a chance. Within months, it grew. Word spread. Recommendations turned into partnerships. Partnerships into contracts. Before I knew it, I wasn't just surviving, I was thriving. My name, Maya Saunders, was finally on the front of a business card that mattered. But the real wealth didn't come from money. It came from the people I chose. Friends who felt like soul siblings. Co-workers who respected me. Clients who valued my voice. And late nights filled with laughter, wine, and honest conversations where I didn't have to perform. There's something deeply healing about being seen, truly seen and loved anyway. That's something Leah never understood. She always chased attention, validation, spotlight, but she never figured out the power of peace. Funny thing is, I heard she had the baby. Daniel? He bailed. Turns out, cheaters don't make great dads either. Leah tried to spin the story. Said I tricked them. Said I set them up. But people aren't stupid, especially not the ones who matter. They saw right through it. Her victim act fell flat. And with Daniel out of the picture and her reputation in tatters, Leah's been struggling to keep up appearances. Sometimes people ask if I feel bad. Here's the truth. I don't. Because the version of me that would have felt guilty, she's gone. She died the day Leah knocked on my door and told me I'd be receiving divorce papers for a marriage that never legally existed. That Maya, desperate for love, desperate to belong, willing to shrink herself just to keep the peace, she's long buried. The Maya that lives today, she walks into rooms without needing permission. She's kind, but not a doormat. She's strong, but not hardened. She trusts, but only those who earn it. And most of all, she's free. I think about that moment often, Leah standing there smug, thinking she had all the cards. That image replays in my mind like a scene from a movie. I remember her words exactly. I'm pregnant with Daniel's baby, and you should expect the divorce paper soon. And I remember my face, the calm smile I gave her, because she had no idea. None. She didn't know she'd just walked into a trap so carefully woven, so effortlessly executed, that by the time she realized what had happened, it was already over. And that was the part of the story she never knew. So here it is, my final word. I hope Leah enjoys single motherhood. I really do. I hope she learns from it, grows from it, becomes better. But me? I'm too busy enjoying freedom, building an empire from the ashes they thought would bury me, and loving a life where I never again have to beg anyone to stay. Because now I choose me. Every time.